Morning, rice sold in 7 states, including here in Florida, being recalled.
Yeah, officials say it's all because of possible rodent contamination.
Rice. 3 billion people eat it daily. It's in your pantry right now. You cook it for your kids, trust it completely. Except some of the rice in your pantry right now has contamination you'll never discover. Buried deep in FDA reports. Your family eats this stuff 3-4 times a week, and you have no idea what's in the bag. That's why today I'm exposing 10 dangerous rice brands you should avoid, and 4 safer ones you can actually trust. Let's go. Number 10. Mahatma Extra Long Grain. White rice. Mahatma calls itself America's favorite rice. Big red label, been around forever, sits on shelves from Walmart to Whole Foods. Here's what that label doesn't tell you. Mahatma sources almost exclusively from Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas rice fields. Now, why is that a bad thing? Consumer Reports tested over 200 rice samples and found that southern long-grain rice contains inorganic arsenic levels 40 to 50% higher than California rice. We're not about trace amounts. We're talking about arsenic linked to bladder cancer, lung disease, and cardiovascular damage with chronic exposure. The FDA set a limit of 100 parts per billion for infant rice cereal in 2020 because babies are vulnerable. But what about adults eating 2 servings daily with no federal limit? Well, you're on your own. Mahatma is owned by Riviana Foods, and they don't publish batch-level arsenic testing. They don't break down which states your bag came from. They bank on brand recognition and hope you don't ask questions. And here's the thing about those southern fields. Cotton was king there for over a century, and cotton farmers used arsenic-based pesticides heavily from the 1960s through the 1980s. That arsenic doesn't wash away. It sits in soil for decades. Rice is particularly efficient at pulling arsenic from soil and water, which means every crop grown on contaminated land carries that legacy. Mahatma hasn't been recalled for physical contamination, but chemical contamination is worse because you can't see it, taste it, or avoid it unless you switch brands entirely. At least Mahatma has national distribution and some quality standards. This next brand hides behind a label that makes you think small scale means safe. Number 9. Riceland Long Grain Rice. Riceland sounds wholesome. Farmer-owned cooperative since 1921. Arkansas proud, red, white, and blue packaging. And sure, it's affordable. But affordable has a cost. Riceland pulls exclusively from Arkansas rice paddies, the same region where arsenic levels run high. A 2014 study published in Environmental Science and Technology found that Arkansas rice contained some of the highest inorganic arsenic concentrations in the United States. Not all rice, just rice from that region. The problem compounds when you realize Riceland processes millions of pounds annually and doesn't publish independent testing for heavy metals. They meet minimum USDA standards, which frankly aren't strict enough. Europe caps arsenic in polished rice at 0.20 milligrams per kilogram. The US has no adult limit. And that's a policy gap Riceland happily operates within. And if you're thinking arsenic is a distant concern, consider this. A 2023 analysis in the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology found that people who eat rice daily have urinary arsenic levels up to 44% higher than those who don't. That arsenic accumulates in kidneys, disrupts cellular function, and increases cancer risk over time. Riceland won't tell you that on the bag. They'll tell you about heritage and community, but heritage doesn't detoxify your kidneys. Riceland at least owns its Arkansas roots. But our next brand is owned by the same corporate parent as Mahatma and makes everything much, much worse. Number 8. Carolina Enriched Rice. Carolina is another southern staple owned by the same parent company as Mahatma. Same sourcing issues, same geographic arsenic problem, same lack of transparency. But Carolina adds another layer of concern with their parboiled rice products. Parboiling is a process where rice is partially cooked in the husk before milling. It drives nutrients from the bran into the grain, which sounds great until you realize it also drives arsenic from the husk into the grain. Studies show parboiled rice can contain up to 80% more inorganic arsenic than regular white rice. Carolina sells millions of pounds of parboiled rice every year without disclosing this. They enrich it with synthetic vitamins after processing strips the natural ones, slap "enriched" on the label, and call it a health food. Meanwhile, Consumer Reports flagged parboiled rice as one of the highest risk categories for arsenic exposure, especially for children and pregnant women. Carolina also markets heavily to communities that rely on rice as a dietary staple, particularly Hispanic and African American households. That's not accidental. It's strategic. Capture loyal customers, build generational trust, and hope nobody reads the testing data. But the data is public, and it's damning. But what about a brand that wraps bad rice in plastic and asks you to boil it in a bag like that makes it safer? Number 7. Success Boil and Bag Rice. Success rice comes in those convenient little boil and bag pouches. Drop the bag in boiling water, cook for 10 minutes, tear it open, and serve. It's marketed as foolproof, which is probably why busy families buy it by the case. But let's talk about what you're actually eating. Success is owned by Mars Inc., the same company that makes M&Ms and Snickers. And Mars has been criticized repeatedly for sourcing practices that consistently prioritizes cost over quality. The rice inside those pouches is commodity long grain with no origin labeling. That means it's likely from Arkansas, Louisiana, or Texas, the same high arsenic regions we've been talking about. But you'll never know for sure because Mars won't tell you. And here's the bigger issue. You're cooking that rice inside a plastic pouch. The pouches are made from food-grade plastic designed to withstand boiling. But research published in Environmental Health Perspectives found that boiling plastic can leach microplastics and plasticizers like phthalates into food. Phthalates are endocrine disruptors linked to reproductive issues and developmental problems in children. The FDA says the levels are safe, but safe is relative. Safe for one meal? Probably. Safe for 3 meals a week for 10 years? Nobody's tested that, and Mars isn't volunteering to find out. If you have 10 minutes to boil a bag, you have 20 minutes to cook real rice in a pot. Skip the plastic, skip the mystery sourcing, and take control of what you're eating. At least Success warns you it's processed. The next brand hides behind premium marketing and charges you double for the same problems. But hey, if you're finding this helpful so far, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We put out food safety videos every week, and honestly, the more people know about this stuff, the better. And I'd like to know in the comments, did you know that rice brands had these problems? Or is this completely new information? Alright, let's continue. Number 6. Lotus Foods Forbidden Rice. Lotus Foods markets itself as the ethical, sustainable choice. Heirloom varieties, small-scale farmers, fancy packaging, and their forbidden rice, that striking black rice, looks incredible on Instagram. They charge premium prices and market heavily to health-conscious consumers who assume that expensive equals safe. But in 2022, independent lab testing commissioned by Clean Label Project analyzed various specialty rice brands and found that certain Lotus Foods products contained cadmium levels higher than conventional brands. Cadmium is a heavy metal that bioaccumulates in kidneys and is classified as a probable human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. The levels detected weren't illegal, but they were concerning enough that researchers flagged them. Lotus Foods sources from China, Indonesia, Thailand, and other regions where soil contamination from industrial runoff is documented. A 2021 study in Science of the Total Environment found that rice grown near industrial zones in China contained cadmium levels up to 5 times higher than rice from agricultural zones. That doesn't automatically make the rice dangerous, but Lotus Foods doesn't publish country-specific sourcing for each product batch, so you can't trace where your bag came from. And when you're paying $6 per pound for forbidden rice, you should get more than pretty packaging. You should get test results. You should get transparency. Lotus Foods gives you neither. They give you marketing copy about sustainability while quietly sourcing from regions with known heavy metal contamination. But this next brand goes the opposite direction, offering rock-bottom prices for poisoned imported rice. Number 5. Iberia Jasmine Rice. Iberia Jasmine Rice is a budget import you'll find in ethnic grocery stores and discount chains. It's cheap, it smells good, and it's sourced from Thailand, Vietnam, or sometimes Pakistan, depending on commodity prices that month. And that's the problem. Inconsistent sourcing means inconsistent quality. In 2020, the FDA issued import alerts for multiple rice shipments from Southeast Asia due to pesticide residues exceeding allowable limits. Specific chemicals flagged included carbendazim and tricyclazole, fungicides banned in the US but still used in countries with weaker agricultural regulations. Iberia wasn't named directly in every alert, but several shipments that matched their supply chain were detained at ports. Import alerts don't always make the news, but they're public record. And when a rice brand sources from multiple countries without publishing certificates of analysis, you're gambling every time you buy. The jasmine variety itself is generally lower in arsenic, which is a point in its favor. But if the rice is loaded with pesticide residues or fungicides, that's just trading one poison for another. And for $2 more, you can buy jasmine rice from a brand that actually tests their batches and posts results. Why take the risk? But our next brand takes domestic rice, processes it to death, and concentrates the contaminants in the name of convenience. Number 4. Minute Rice Instant White. Minute rice is the king of convenience. Microwave it, boil it, you're done in 5 minutes. It's pre-cooked, dehydrated, and rehydrated when you add water. Sounds harmless until you understand what happens during that processing. Instant rice is cooked in large industrial batches using water that may or may not meet drinking water standards. That water can contain dissolved minerals, including arsenic if the source is contaminated. A 2023 study in food chemistry found that instant rice products had inorganic arsenic levels 15 to 25% higher than raw long-grain rice because the pre-cooking process concentrates contaminants. And because minute rice sources from the commodity pool, you're getting rice from multiple farms, possibly multiple states, with no traceability. Consumer advocacy groups analyzed instant rice in 2023 and recommended limiting consumption, especially for children under 6. The convenience isn't worth the contamination, and Minute Rice doesn't publish sourcing or testing data, so you're trusting a brand that prioritizes speed over safety. If you're that pressed for time, buy a rice cooker. 20 minutes, real rice, zero processing risk. Now, what about this next brand that markets itself as premium sushi-grade rice but doesn't deliver on it? Number 3. Nico Nico Calrose Rice. Nico Nico markets itself as premium sushi-grade Calrose rice. It's popular in Asian grocery stores, sold in 5 and 10-pound bags with Japanese branding that suggests quality. The problem is, in 2019, the FDA conducted routine testing on Nico Nico rice and found foreign materials, specifically small stones and grain debris, in multiple samples. The contamination wasn't severe enough to trigger a mandatory recall, but the FDA sent a warning letter and the company voluntarily pulled specific lot codes. Most consumers never knew because the action didn't make national news. But the FDA report is public if you know where to look. And that's the problem with mid-tier brands. They're too small to get the same scrutiny as major players, but they're processing at a scale where mistakes have consequences. The issue here is processing. Calrose is a medium-grain rice that's supposed to be milled carefully to preserve texture. Foreign material contamination happens when milling and processing facilities cut corners on quality control. Stones should be removed during cleaning and sorting, but high-speed operations sometimes skip steps to meet production quotas. And if you bite down on a stone, you're not just dealing with a cracked tooth. If you're on blood thinners for a heart condition, a cut inside your mouth can bleed for hours and require medical intervention. If you're elderly or have weakened teeth, you could choke. Nico Nico fixed the immediate problem, but the fact that it happened at all shows their quality control has gaps. And gaps let dangerous things through. That's not a risk worth taking. But our number 2 brand had the exact same problem just last year, and it's owned by a billion-dollar corporation with no excuse. Number 2, Ben's Original Ready Rice. Ben's Original, the rebrand of Uncle Ben's, is owned by Mars Inc. and sells ready-to-eat microwavable rice pouches. Heat for 90 seconds, tear open, and serve. It's positioned as the ultimate convenience meal. Except in 2024, the FDA issued a Class 2 recall for multiple varieties of Ben's Original Ready Rice after consumers reported finding small stones in the pouches. The recall covered long grain white, whole grain brown, long grain, and wild, and affected 8.8-ounce pouches distributed nationwide. Specific lot codes with best by dates extending into 2026 were listed on the FDA recall database. Let that sink in. You're buying a product marketed as ready to eat. No rinsing, no sorting, just heat and serve. And inside those sealed pouches are stones that can crack teeth, cause choking, or require emergency dental work. Mars Inc. has annual revenues over $40 billion. They have entire teams dedicated to quality assurance. And yet stones made it through production, through packaging, through distribution, and onto store shelves across America. That's a sign of negligence. And if you've got Ben's Original in your cabinet right now, check the lot codes against the FDA recall list. If it matches, don't eat it. Don't return it. Throw it out. Because 90 seconds of convenience is not worth a hospital visit. Now, the brand at number 1 has a contamination problem so disgusting it makes stones look clean. Number 1. Dynasty Jasmine Rice. This is an import brand sold primarily through Asian grocery chains and online retailers. It's marketed as authentic Thai jasmine, often at prices lower than competitors, which makes it attractive to budget shoppers. But Dynasty has a documented history of supply chain issues. In 2018, the FDA detained multiple shipments of Dynasty rice due to filth and evidence of rodent contamination during storage. The agency's public records described conditions that violated current good manufacturing practices, including pest infestation and unsanitary warehouse conditions. Some shipments were destroyed, others were re-inspected and cleared after remediation, but the damage to trust was done. Rodent contamination is dangerous. Rodent feces and urine can carry salmonella, leptospirosis, hantavirus, and other pathogens that cause serious illness. If you're immunocompromised, elderly, or managing chronic conditions, exposure can be life-threatening. And even if the contaminated batches were pulled, the fact that Dynasty's supply chain allowed it to happen raises questions about every bag they sell. Do they inspect every warehouse? Do they test every batch? They don't publish that information. They just keep selling cheap jasmine rice and hoping nobody remembers 2018. But the FDA remembers, and now you do too. There are too many good jasmine rice brands out there to risk this one. Dynasty is dead last for a reason. So yeah, that's kind of disheartening, but they're not all like that. There are some rice brands that actually show their work and should earn your trust. Here are 4 of them. But first, if this video made you rethink your dinner staple, hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, have you eaten rice from any of these 10 brands? Also, are you switching brands after watching this, or staying loyal to what you've always bought? Alright, now on to the safer alternatives. Number 1. Lundberg Organic California White Basmati. Lundberg is a family-owned farm in California's Sacramento Valley, and they've been growing rice sustainably since 1937. This company publishes third-party testing data for arsenic, cadmium, and lead on their website. Their California White Basmati consistently tests below 100 parts per billion inorganic arsenic, which is the FDA action level for infant cereal. California rice benefits from clean Sierra Nevada snowmelt irrigation and soil without the arsenic legacy of southern cotton fields. Independent testing by Consumer Reports ranked Lundberg among the lowest arsenic brands on the market, and their organic certification adds another layer of oversight through USDA inspections. Basmati as a variety naturally absorbs less arsenic than long grain or medium grain rice, and combining that varietal advantage with California sourcing gives you the safest possible profile. Lundberg costs more, usually $4 to $6 per pound, but if you've got kids or you're managing kidney issues or heart disease, that extra money is an investment in long-term health. Number 2. Tilda Pure Basmati Rice. Tilda is a UK-based brand that imports basmati rice from India and Pakistan, and because they sell across the European Union, they must comply with EU regulations. The EU caps inorganic arsenic in polished rice at 0.20 milligrams per kilogram, which is stricter than US standards. Tilda participates in the Basmati Code of Practice, which includes DNA testing to verify authenticity and origin traceability from farm to package. Independent lab testing has consistently shown Tilda Basmati ranking among the lowest for arsenic and heavy metals compared to other rice varieties. Basmati, from the Himalayan foothills, benefits from alpine water sources and soil chemistry that naturally limits arsenic uptake. Tilda's supply chain verification means you're not getting cheaper grain passed off as basmati, which is a common scam in the rice industry. It's more expensive, usually $5 to $7 per pound, but the combination of EU regulatory compliance, DNA verification, and consistently low contamination makes it worth every cent. Number 3. Royal Basmati Rice. Royal is another basmati option, sourced from India and Pakistan, and it's more affordable than Tilda while maintaining quality standards. You can usually find it for $3 to $5 per pound at most major grocery stores. Royal has been importing basmati to the US for decades, and their supply chain has a well-established and consistent quality control. Independent testing by Consumer Reports and other groups has shown Royal Basmati falling into the low arsenic category, typically well below 100 parts per billion inorganic arsenic. The brand doesn't publish as much testing data publicly as Lundberg or Tilda, but their track record is clean with no recalls or contamination incidents on FDA records. Royal is widely available, affordable, and reliable. If you're switching from a high arsenic brand and you're on a budget, Royal is the easiest transition. Number 4. Nishiki Premium Medium Grain Rice. Nishiki is California-grown medium grain rice distributed by JFC International, and it's a staple in Japanese and Asian American kitchens. It's the rice used for sushi, rice bowls, and any dish where you want a tender, slightly sticky texture. Nishiki sources exclusively from California rice farms, which means you get the geographic advantage of lower arsenic levels combined with reliable domestic supply chain oversight. Consumer Reports testing has consistently ranked California medium-grain rice, including Nishiki among the safest options available. It typically tests around 50 to 70 parts per billion inorganic arsenic, well below the FDA's 100 ppb action level for infants. Nishiki is also affordable, usually $2 to $3 per pound, which makes it accessible for families cooking rice multiple times per week. The texture is perfect for Asian cuisine, but it works just as well for burrito bowls, stir-fries, or simple steamed rice with vegetables. If you're looking for everyday rice that's safe, affordable, and versatile, Nishiki checks every box. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, and it's not going to hurt you. That's the whole point. So there you have it. 10 rice brands with recalls, contamination, and testing failures you can't ignore. And 4 safer alternatives that publish results, source responsibly, and give you something you can actually trust. So check your pantry tonight. If you've got any of those 10 brands sitting there, toss them, or at least verify the lot codes. And next time you're at the store, pick up one of the 4 we just covered. Your family deserves better. If this video helped you make better choices, share it with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe because we're exposing more brands with food safety issues next week. Also, drop a comment and let me know, which of these 10 brands is sitting in your pantry right now? Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.